Winter 2026 gave romance anime fans something they did not expect, a season so packed with shows that actually understand what butterflies feel like that narrowing it down to 10 was genuinely difficult. There is one show in particular that aired on Crunchyroll this January, scored an 8.3 on IMDb from thousands of viewers, just had its Season 2 officially announced at AnimeJapan, and has been described by every reviewer who watched its finale as equal parts frustrating, beautiful, and completely addictive. I am going to name it at number 1, and between now and then, 9 other Winter 2026 anime that belong in the same conversation. Before we start, if romance anime is your thing and you want breakdowns like this every single week, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs a new show to watch right now. Let's go. At number 10, the 2026 adaptation of Hanakimi. Mizuki Ashiya is a Japanese-American girl who disguises herself as a boy and enrolls in an all-boys school in Japan for one specific, slightly irrational reason. Her idol, high jumper Izumi Sano, attends that school, and she believes that being near him will help him return to competition after an injury ended his career. The premise is old enough to feel like a classic by now, which is precisely what makes the 2026 adaptation interesting. It knows it is working with a familiar structure and uses that familiarity as shorthand. The audience already understands the shape of this story, which means every scene can be about texture and feeling rather than plot mechanics. What the adaptation does well is give Sano a specific, legible reason for being drawn to Mizuki that has nothing to do with seeing through the disguise and everything to do with the quality of her attention. She watches him with the particular focus of someone who has loved something from a distance for a long time. That kind of watching, it turns out, is visible, and Sano, who has been used to being watched as a performer rather than as a person, notices the difference immediately. Number 9. Champignon Witch. Luna exudes a deadly poison from her body. She lives on a mountain, largely alone, because proximity to other people is a danger she cannot control. Haruto is a popular young man from the village below who wanders into her space not out of heroism or ignorance, but out of the specific curiosity of someone who has been told to stay away and found that reason insufficient. The show is a fantasy, but the emotional logic it is working with is completely real. What does it feel like to be told that the thing that makes you dangerous is also the thing that makes you yourself? Luna has not separated who she is from what she can do because she has never been given the space to try. Haruto's decision to stay, not to fix her, not to cure her, not to find a way around the poison, but simply to remain in her presence at whatever cost, is the most radical romantic gesture in the Winter 2026 season. The butterflies in this show come from watching someone discover that their presence alone is worth a risk. Number 8. Tune in to the Midnight Heart. Aoi is a lonely boy who's been listening to a late-night radio host called Apollo since childhood, a voice in the dark that understood his specific flavor of isolation in a way that nothing else in his life managed to. He carries those recordings into high school, the way people carry photographs of places they have never been but feel they belong to. When circumstances bring him close to discovering who Apollo actually is, the show is careful not to make that discovery a trick or a reveal for its own sake. The mechanism here is something the genre rarely handles with this much precision: parasocial attachment transforming into genuine intimacy. What Aoi has built around Apollo is not a fantasy. It is a real understanding of a real person, assembled from fragments of honesty that the host offered to the darkness because they believed no one specific was listening. The show earns its butterfly moments by insisting that love built on listening is no less real than love built on presence. We are at the halfway point of the Winter 2026 list. The #1 show has an 8.3 on IMDb, was watched by hundreds of thousands on Crunchyroll every Sunday morning, had its Season 2 announced live at AnimeJapan on March 29th, and its Episode 12 finale was reviewed as equal parts beautiful and frustrating by every major anime publication. 4 entries away. Do not stop now. Number 7. In the Clear Moonlit Dusk. Yoi Takiguchi is tall, athletic, and striking enough that her classmates have spent years calling her a prince, a title that sits on her like a costume she cannot take off. It is meant as a compliment. It functions as an erasure. When everyone reads you as a type rather than as a person, the experience of being genuinely seen becomes almost theoretical, something you understand intellectually but have stopped expecting to happen. Kohaku Ichimura is the first boy at school to call her beautiful rather than prince, and the show is precise about what that distinction costs him and what it gives her. He is not doing it to flatter her. He is doing it because it is accurate, and because he has noticed that nobody else has said so. That act, the small, unperformed act of simply describing what is in front of you honestly, is the engine of In the Clear Moonlit Dusk's romance. The butterflies come from watching a person discover they are being seen as themselves for the first time. The show frames that discovery with the care it deserves. Number 6. Love Through a Prism, which released as a batch on Netflix and was called by multiple reviewers possibly the best romance of the Winter 2026 season, despite its quiet arrival. Lily processes the world through aesthetics and emotion. Kit processes it through structure and logic. Their early interactions are not antagonistic, they are genuinely confused by each other, in the way that people are confused by someone whose mind works in a completely different key. What the show does with this premise that most opposites attract romances fail to do is to make both ways of seeing the world feel equally valid and equally incomplete. Lily is not right, Kit is not right. The relationship that develops between them is not about one converting the other. It is about two people expanding their range by choosing to include someone whose range does not overlap with theirs. The butterflies in Love Through a Prism come from watching two people discover that the most interesting thing in their respective worlds is each other. And the Netflix batch release model, which allowed viewers to watch the whole season in one sitting, gave the show a binge-worthy intensity that weekly releases rarely achieve. If this breakdown is doing what I hoped it is doing, if you are already adding these shows to your watch list, this is the moment to hit like and subscribe. New Top 10 every week. Share this with whoever needs a Winter 2026 watch list right now. Number 5. The Invisible Man and His Soon-to-Be Wife. Ryusei is invisible, literally, physically, completely invisible. And the show does not treat this as a superpower or a tragedy, but as a simple condition of his existence, one that he has learned to navigate with practical creativity and an earnest desire to give Akane, his fiancée, the relationship she deserves despite everything it cannot be. What makes this show remarkable in a crowded Winter 2026 season is its insistence on celebrating firsts. Every new milestone in their relationship, every date, every moment of closeness, every small negotiation of intimacy that a sighted couple would perform without thinking is treated as an occasion. Not because it is difficult, because it is theirs. The butterflies in this show are earned through specificity. The show asks what it costs two people to build intimacy across a condition that should, theoretically, make intimacy impossible, and then answers that question with warmth, practicality, and a generous spirit that is almost disarming. Reviewers noted it is wonderfully inclusive, not as a performance of representation, but as a story that simply requires its premise to think about love more carefully than most romance anime bother to. Number 4. Taman's B-side. Utage Kinoshita has devoted her teenage years to Taman Fukuhara, the wild and charismatic frontman of the idol group F4 Ace. Her room is a shrine to him. She works part-time as a housekeeper to afford concert tickets and merchandise. She has built an entire emotional architecture around a public image, and then a housekeeping shift sends her to his apartment, and she discovers something that shatters that architecture immediately. Taman Fukuhara, at home, is gloomy, anxious, self-deprecating, and almost completely unable to take care of himself. His stage persona, the one she fell for, is a character his agency invented for him because they told him his real personality was not marketable. What Taman's B-side does with this premise is more sophisticated than most idol romance anime attempt. It does not ask Utage to choose between the idol and the person. It asks her to discover that loving the person means confronting what the industry has done to him, and then deciding to stay anyway. As one reviewer noted, she becomes the ultimate cheerleader for a man's worth against the one person most aggressively arguing against it, himself. The butterflies in this show come from watching someone be genuinely, stubbornly believed in. That experience is one of the most romantic things Winter 2026 delivered. Number 3. Journal with a Witch, also known as Ikoku Nikki. And I want to be precise about why it is here. This is not a romantic love story. Makio Nita is a novelist in her 30s who unexpectedly becomes guardian to Asa, her 15-year-old niece, after a tragedy. Their relationship is built from grief, from clashing personalities, from the specific awkwardness of two people who did not choose each other being placed in the position of being each other's closest person. The butterflies in Ikoku Nikki are not romantic. They are the butterflies of watching two people who are both broken by loss start, slowly and with great difficulty, to build something that functions like trust. What earns it a place on this list is what it suggests about the genre around it, that the feeling this list is named after, that involuntary physical response to something emotionally real, is not exclusive to romantic love. It belongs to any relationship where two people are genuinely trying with each other. Ikoku Nikki was one of the most discussed anime of Winter 2026 precisely because it refused to be simple about what connection costs and what it is worth. Number 2, and this is a specific placement that requires explanation, Taman's B-side appears at both number 4 and number 2 on this list because the show operates on two distinct emotional levels. Number 4 was about the show's premise and its romantic architecture. Number 2 is about what the ANN episode reviewer called the show's most important development by episode 11, Utage having a much harder time denying the reality that she has feelings for Taman that go beyond those of a fangirl and her Oshi. That moment, the specific episode where the emotional honesty the show has been building toward finally becomes unavoidable, deserves its own recognition. The slow burn of Taman's B-side is not a will they, won't they in the conventional sense. It is a story about a person whose entire identity is organized around loving someone from a safe, defined distance, discovering that the distance has collapsed. The butterfly moment of Taman's B-side is not a confession or a kiss. It is the episode where Utage sits with the knowledge of what she actually feels and cannot find a reason to call it anything else. That experience, the private recognition of something you cannot take back, is the most honest butterfly this Winter 2026 season delivered. And here it is, the show I described at the start of this video. Number 1. You and I are polar opposites. Miyu Suzuki is a garu, pink hair, painted nails, an outgoing personality that she performs every day at school, even when she is exhausted by the performance. She is, as more than one reviewer noted, someone who excels at reading the room to the point of self-detriment, a person whose social fluency is so developed that she has spent years using it to manage everyone else's comfort at the expense of her own. Yusuke Tani sits beside her in class and does the opposite. He speaks his mind plainly, without social calculation, completely unbothered by fitting in. He is quiet not because he is shy, but because he has simply decided that most conversations do not require him. The attraction Suzuki feels for Tani is not superficial, it is specific. She loves that he is true to himself. She loves it because it is the exact thing she cannot do. What makes You and I Are Polar Opposites the #1 butterfly show of winter 2026 is a structural decision that almost no romance anime makes. The confession happens at the end of episode 1, and by the end of episode 2, they're officially a couple. In a genre built almost entirely on the tension of the unresolved confession, this show simply resolves it immediately, and then asks a much more interesting question. What does it actually feel like to be with someone? Not the aching, longing period before, the actual experience of being in it. While still in high school, while still figuring out who you are, while your boyfriend is so straightforwardly himself that every interaction with him is both a relief and a challenge. As one reviewer put it at Anime News Network, the show does not stop at the pivotal moment, it starts there, and that starting point generates more butterflies per episode than most romance anime generate in a full season. The episode 12 finale, which aired on March 29, 2026, the same day that Season 2 was announced live at AnimeJapan, was reviewed across multiple publications as equal parts frustrating and beautiful. Fandom Wire called it the episode of so close yet so far. The final almost moment between Suzuki and Tani was described as painfully relatable precisely because it did not deliver what the audience wanted and was correct not to. The show has never been about the grand romantic payoff. It has been about the specific, involuntary, slightly embarrassing experience of being in the early stages of something real. The hand taken on a walk home, the overhearing, the running after someone because you have to, not because the script requires it. Every butterfly moment in You and I Are Polar Opposites is earned by characters who feel genuinely unglamorously alive. Lapintrack animated the show with a retro color palette described as bright as a set of brand new markers, and Tofu Beats composed a score that is poppy and precise and completely right for what the show is. It is a love story about what love is actually like, and winter 2026 did not give us anything more honest than that. 10 shows, 1 winter season. Every single one of them gave you that feeling. The one that makes you sit up slightly, put your phone down, and actually watch. Winter 2026 was that kind of season. Tell me in the comments, which one gave you the most butterflies, and which one are you starting tonight? I want to know both.